Good afternoon and welcome to the Savage Chamber of Commerce Meet the Mayoral Candidates for the City of Savage. My name is Heather Prosky and I will be in conjunction moderating with Tom Hutchinson from Eastland Hutchinson LTD right here in Savage. Thank you, Janet and Kim, for being here. It is greatly appreciated of your time today, and we will make this a very fun, conversational forum, for the lack of a better word, to really just get to know you for the voters in Savage and get some of the questions that are pressing on both our minds and the Savage community's minds. Tom, do you want to hop in and do the question and session here? I did say that we'll start with Janet and go to Kim and then volley back and forth from there, but please, thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, candidates, and welcome to this discussion to discuss a little bit about your views on issues that are pressing in Savage and what you would do if you were elected mayor or, in Janet's case, re-elected. Okay? The first question I have is, what do you see as the most pressing issues in Savage, and what are your thoughts on how they should be resolved? And we'll start with Janet.
Okay. Well, as I would say, that three challenges is what I'm calling them that are ahead of us in the coming year would be we are going to be reorganizing the fire department, and so that's something that has been on our agenda for quite a few years. It started with Chief McCall, and now we've realized that we're at a time when it needs to be done, because we started 50 years ago with totally volunteer, then we went to paid on call, and times are changing. We're getting many more calls, over 500 a year, and so with the different things that are confronting our paid on call firefighters, with having more medicals than fires, different family situations. Another challenge is, of course, I call it the two pandemics, because we have the race and the COVID that I think are things that we are addressing in the city. We, from the city's perspective and the COVID-19, we're doing what we feel is necessary for the safety of our residents and our staff. And the third one is infrastructure, that we always have to be concerned about transportation and our infrastructure, which is the sewer and water lines and our streets. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry I didn't ask the candidates. Is it all right if I use your first names?
Sure.
This is a friendly discussion, unlike some other discussion we've seen lately. So, Kim, could you answer the same question? I'll repeat it. What do you see as the most pressing issues in Savage, and what are your thoughts on how to resolve them?
Okay. The most pressing that I see in Savage is, like Janet was saying, our fire department. Ever since McCall was chief on the fire, you know, there have been things that came up where call times were a little bit longer and not as fast. We've grown from 5,000 people up to 32,000, and the need is there for the fire department to be able to respond to the calls in a good amount of time. That's lives that are saved. It's hard for the fire department to work when all the volunteers are full-time fathers, in our case, full-time jobs, and then to have to go, you know, on the way home from work to a fire or a crash or a medical. That seems to me to be very important, and I've heard from a lot of the citizens of Savage too that that's a great thing that we're doing now for our fire department and for our police department, to keep them up, to make sure that our community is safe, which I feel safe in the community. I've lived here for over 40 years, and I think they do a wonderful job. Another thing that's very important to me is small businesses in Savage. I have been out talking to a lot of the businesses and the business owners and citizens that we see little shops come in and go out. And why they come in and go out is because either their rent's too high or they're not getting the traffic in, which I think we need to support our businesses. That's part of who we are here in Savage. And another thing is with our taxes. I really believe that our taxes have been awesome and right on. Janet's always gotten a AAA, with the taxes, but there's times are changing. With the COVID, now not being able to go to school, more people are at home schooling their kids, are busy, can't do the daycare. There's needs to be resources for them to go to and to put our taxes, if that's what we need to do, we may have to, think about not so much spending on other things, that we can work it out with the citizens.
And any response to her points, Ms. Janet?
No, I'm fine.
Very good. Then we'll go on to the next question, and this time we'll ask Kim Holler the question first. Do you believe that the city of Savage should make any changes to its allocation of resources to policing and mental health services?
Yes, I do. I feel that our police department does a wonderful job. I would encourage citizens to go to the Citizens Academy that have been in Savage for years to learn more, ask more questions. But I think our chief does a wonderful job of making sure that the police department has the right things that they need for our citizens, and I think they're doing a wonderful job with it. But yeah, it is something that we can work on.
Okay, thank you.
If need be.
Janet, same question, I'll repeat it again. Do you believe that the city of Savage should make any changes to its current allocation of resources to policing or mental health service?
Well, for our police department, for many years, we have had the model of community policing, and that's different than what the type of policing we would see in Minneapolis or St. Paul. Our police department has been supported by our city council, and we have supported them in training because we feel that training is really important in their day-to-day work. And one thing that has come up in the last few years is crisis intervention training, and that helps them in dealing with mental health situations or domestic violence or really other things once they learn that model. And we have adopted the 21st century policing model, where I know after the George Floyd situation, I got many calls and emails from people who were wondering about what our policies were with regard to chokeholds and those kinds of things. And that's something that's in our policies that our police doesn't do. The other thing that the police department has been instrumental in is having the conversations on race. And so we had one in the fall and one in January, and then with the COVID, then they didn't do the one that they were planning, the third one. But in retrospect, they decided to do a virtual town hall meeting where they could discuss the policing and how the city operated with regard to diversity. And then we did have a third conversation on race that was virtual. We had around 100 people who signed up for it and about 60 or more that did participate. And so out of all of those discussions, the city and the police department have been doing bias training, and we've signed up for a program that's called GARES, G-A-R-E-S, and that's a government program that works on the staff so that they are not biased, and then to work on programs or plans to see if it's possible for us to have a more diverse workforce.
Okay. Thank you, Janet. The next question also goes to Janet, since we're just alternating
Okay.
back and forth. This is kind of an interesting kind of softball question because you've both been here, lived here. In Janet's case, I know her whole life, and Kim for many, many years. What do you like best about the community of Savage? And don't make it a book.
Well, I guess everyone knows that I've lived here forever, so, so, and I was raised on a dairy farm down by the roundabout, and so I've seen the community grow from, like Kim said, from 500 to 32,000 where we are right now. And I've always been interested in public service and feel that I wanted to be part of how the city developed. And I like what's happened because we have a variety of businesses, we have a variety of housing stock, and great parks and trails. And we really are concerned about the environment, which I think is good, and we've done things like working on the Credit River, working on the flood plan because we had a really big flood in '65. So I like the way the town has grown, and I think what I find is interesting is people will come to town, they'll buy a house, and then if they want to buy another house, they'll buy it in Savage. So I think people come here for a reason, and that's the reason why I stay and like being involved.
Okay, thank you. Kim, same question. What do you like best about the community of Savage? I think you said you've been here about 40 years. That's a pretty good track record.
Yeah. When we were first married, when I was first married, we moved into Savage, bought our first home in Savage because of how small the town was, the school districts, the teachers, wonderful school districts and teachers, the fire department, police department. I mean, over the years, I've gotten to know a lot of them during working and everything, but I seem to always want to get my head into the city works and how we have grown from such a small population. And like Janet says, when you sell your home, you want to buy another home in Savage. That says a lot about where we are, where we live, the people of Savage, the diversity of Savage that's never been there before, and how the community is making it all work. And I think a lot of that has to do with the citizens living in Savage and how we talk and we get around. Convenience.
Okay. All right, thank you. Appreciate both of your comments on what you like best about the community. And now, Kim, we'll go back to you for the next question. COVID-19 is on everybody's mind. It's in the newspaper, headlines almost daily. As a candidate for mayor, what do you think are the responsibilities of the city of Savage when it comes to COVID-19?
Well, keeping our citizens safe, keeping all the employees of Savage safe, but like we're doing now, wearing our masks, washing our hands, you know, that type of thing that is, you know, governed by our governor. And I think Savage has done a great work on keeping it at bay. I don't think we've heard, you know, about anything. It's sad with the schools, that I will say, because with the kids at home and not getting that one-on-one with their teachers, I hope we can open that up more, you know, with maybe more regulations, I don't know, but be able to let the kids go back to school and be more like a normal life. It's sad how they've changed.
Thank you. Janet, same question to you. Given the the prominence of COVID-19 in our daily lives, what do you think are the responsibilities of Savage, the city of Savage, related to COVID?
Well, first of all, it was a little awesome when the mayor had to declare an emergency. That was a first, but those types of things needed to happen for a number of reasons, and partially if, you know, a bill needed to be paid or different things like that without calling everyone together, and there were other things that had to do with purchasing equipment and making decisions about who could work from home and being responsible to do that, whether or not the city hall was going to be closed, what we were going to do with the park department. And the one thing that we did was with the fire department, we changed their model so that they did have regular firefighters scheduled, and they had the PPE equipment so that in some of the calls, they were the ones who went versus the police department because they were the ones who had the proper equipment to handle that. So it's been quite a learning experience, and certainly it gave us a lot of different ideas. I think because of the way that things had to be done, I think that we are going to be looking at things differently in the future. And I know already at Monday night's council meeting, we purchased some software that's more user-friendly for the builders or the contractors and the city employees. That's all online versus what we were doing before with the plans that had to be changed and different things like that. So I do think some good things are coming out of this. We have had conversations with the superintendents of each one of the school districts, and while we don't have anything to say about how they operate, there is concern about how we are all trying to make sure that we're following the guidelines so that the spread of the COVID is kept at a minimum so the schools can go into being open more. So we do take the seriousness of this and are concerned about our residents and our businesses and our staff. Now, what we did do is we've offered 2 programs for small businesses, and that was with part of the CARES money that we got. We did one for the small businesses, and with 20% of that going to the diverse ones. And then we're in the process right now of doing a second one of those, and that is also for small businesses and for the nonprofits. And so we partnered with the county CDA in those, and so that they administered them, but that we did spend the money on that. So the other thing with the COVID is that there were certain expenditures that we could, the CARES money that we could spend for things, and so some of that did go to the 2 hospitals that do serve our city because they each have a clinic here. Unfortunately, one of them will be closing because of the issues with the health departments and the health providers, but we will move ahead and continue to try to be cognizant of what's best until we get a vaccine. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Janet. And next question, we'll start with you again, Janet, because
Okay.
Kim had the last one. I'd like you to comment from your perspective as to what is the status of the relationship between the City of Savage on the one hand and on the other hand, the county and the other cities around us in the county. If you're continued on as mayor, what will you do to build upon and strengthen those relationships, again, between the City of Savage, surrounding communities, and the county itself?
Okay. Well, I've always been a proponent of working together and forming relationships so that we could offer the best service to our residents, plus save some money. So since probably at least for 15 years, we have been meeting with the city of Burnsville because we do several things together with them. And of course, we share a water system because the city of Savage has a problem with the DNR as to how many wells we can build because of the fen. And so we partnered with the city of Burnsville and got a state grant and worked with a private contractor and the two cities, and we now use surface water rather than groundwater, and because of that, the aquifer has replenished. We work with all the cities, the school districts, the county, and the Sioux community in an organization called SCALE, Scott County Association for Leadership and Efficiency. And in that group, we look at ways that we can work together to save money. And so what we have done, one thing that has come out of that is the sharing of equipment. So perhaps one city will have one piece of equipment, another would have another. It's not something that you need to use all the time, but somebody needs to have it. And the other thing that we've been doing is if we're going to do some kind of an ordinance, like we had that social host one a few years ago, and that meant that if you were hosting a party where minors were there, then you could be liable. And so instead of each one of the cities trying to hone their own, or if Savage had that ordinance, maybe they'd go party in the next city. So all the cities got together and have the same ordinance. And so those kinds of things are what's been beneficial. The other thing is that we meet, the administrator and the mayor meet every other month with the county administrator and the county commissioner who represents Savage. And that's where we talk about things of mutual interest. Like, for instance, we do talk a fair amount about transportation because the Highway 13 corridor through Savage is extremely important beyond just Savage, because on that piece of road between 35 and 169, that is the highest commercial truck traffic of any piece of road in the state of Minnesota, and that's because of the ports of Savage. So when the county instituted their transportation tax, a good portion of that has gone to that upgrading Highway 13. We did the intersection of 13 and 101, and I think that flyover has been very effective, and now we're in the process of trying to get the funding for 13 and Dakota, where there will be another flyover, and all of that has to do with the truck traffic and the grain trucks going in and out and the backups. And I think there is money for that in the bonding bill right now that's been held up at the state of Minnesota, and so we're hopeful that that would get passed so that we could get that funding so that that could be done, because what was interesting is some of the legislators from around here were wondering, why are the legislators in southwestern Minnesota complaining about that piece of road? Well, their farmers were trying to get their grain in here to the grain elevator, because I think about 9% of the grain that's shipped out of the country comes out of the ports of Savage. And so the Minnesota River is dredged from the Mississippi River to Savage. And so what I'm saying is all these partnerships are really important to get things done.
Very good. Thank you, Janet. Kim, same question. I'll repeat it. What do you view the status of the relationship between the city of Savage and Scott County and the surrounding communities? And what would you do if you were mayor to build upon and strengthen the relationships between the city of Savage, the surrounding communities, and the county?
One thing I've noticed just living in Savage and being a citizen is the way our police department and our fire department, like Janet was saying, is you go, if we don't have something, they willingly on a call will bring it to you. They work together, which that's pretty rare, you know, for Minnesota, because a lot of them want to be independent, but here we have all these resources at our hands, you know, with these people, and back the same way. And just living in Savage, right off of Highway 13, like Janet said, the traffic with semis was horrendous. And just getting that and working with, you know, Scott County, Burnsville, and all the other ones, it's really eased up that corridor. But there's still work that needs to be done. And I think keeping those strong relationships together and bringing citizens together from everywhere that utilizes that would be a wonderful thing. So I would like to, you know, keep up that work and getting everybody together.
Thank you. The next question has to do with, excuse me, go
Oh,
ahead.
could I just,
Janet,
the one
yes.
thing that I didn't talk about, another relationship that's kind of coming to fruition right now is that for years we've met with Credit River. And when the city of Savage extended sewer and water to southern Savage, when that was starting to develop, and of course that sewer planning, of course, comes through the Metropolitan Council. Well, when we did that, they made us put a bigger pipe through there, you know, and now we're seeing the value of that because Credit River now is going to be a city. And so they will be using that sewer and water access, and so that's just something that happened from all the years of work that had been done between the two of us to make the region work better.
Very good. Kim, any comment on that?
I, yeah, have known about that and have been sitting in on some of the meetings with Credit River and knowing that they need us, that's a great partnership to go in with. So it's so close to us.
Shows the value of that planning and
Yes.
that relationship.
And it wasn't
Very
a situation
valuable.
of the city of Savage ever wanting to annex them either.
Right.
Yeah.
They wanted to be a city, and that was okay, so we worked together, and it's happening.
And I think that's
And
what
with the fire and the police too, with the fire department works together a lot with
operation.
them.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank both of you. The next question has to do with the Savage Chamber, and I'll have Heather ask that one to the candidates.
As a Savage Chamber of Commerce, we are unapologetically pro-Savage and pro-business. How is your agenda pro-business, and how does it differ from your opponents? I think, Kim, we're going to start with that. How we want business here, but as you are probably aware, we're getting pretty tight on land space and how we can grow. What is your pro-business agenda in keeping businesses here and growing business, and how would that differ or align with Janet's?
I'm not really sure on how, you know, Janet feels on that spot, but what I feel is instead of building more buildings, utilize the ones that we have in Savage right now that are sitting empty. And in the beginning, when I was, you know, saying we need to support our businesses, a lot of the businesses were saying, my God, the rent is a lot of money. They couldn't afford it. So they're looking at trying to, you know, do I keep my business here in Savage, or do I move my business over to Prior Lake that's $100 cheaper? We should be able to form an agreement with those companies to keep them here in Savage. Try to do anything. That's where the Chamber of Commerce too can come into effect and say, hey, we want to keep you here. What can we do also to make it easier for you business owners? Because there is a lot of space left in Savage. We've kind of been able to, you know, expand, but now we need to fill those expansions and not really go anymore, but back up our businesses. If they need help, they need to know that they can come to us, that we'll be open, we will listen and do what we can to help.
Right. And Janet, to you, again, unapologetically, I am pro-business and pro-Savage. How are we going to keep business here, knowing that we're running out of land to build, but like Kim was saying, can we utilize some spaces? How are we going to make that happen?
Well, when I was first elected, in '03. A few years after that, I mean, during that time, and as people came, they would say, well, we don't have enough restaurants, we don't have this kind of a store, or that kind of a store, or whatever. And the thing is that what I would say is that we have to have the rooftops here before we get the businesses. And I'm not, especially the service type businesses. And so that has happened because now we have, a lot of businesses, and people have heard me say, well, if I can't buy it in Savage, I don't need it. And so that's the way I feel now, is that we do have a lot of businesses now that we didn't have before, and they're here because we have a lot of people who are going to, shop there or take their business there. What the city does is that we've done, for instance, in the COVID, the ones that were here and renting from us, we did give them some relief on their rent. And for other businesses, they did get some COVID relief also. But I think has to be a great partnership between the Chamber of Commerce and the city, because between the two of us, we can do a good job of attracting businesses here and finding ways to help them. I know through the years, the city has done a number of plans. They've done help businesses with a new facade plan, or some kind of a grant that would help that. And a prime example of something that went from a business that was talking about leaving leaving a big building empty is the Continental Machines one. That's a prime example of Continental Machines wanted to, their presence in Savage was decreasing. They'd been here since 1940. They did want to operate some, but they didn't need the whole building. So they sold the whole thing. They rent a portion of that, and what the person who bought that building has been remodeling it, repurposing it, and many new small businesses are going into that, and the city has been helping with the zoning and those kinds of things to make that all happen. So we do little things to make a difference. So that's part of what our Economic Development Commission also does, is coming up with ideas of how to work together with the businesses, big and small, because the small businesses certainly are the backbone of the country. And we're fortunate here, though, because of the ports and some of the other businesses that we do have here, to have some big ones too, and they have really good paying jobs. In fact, we have 3 companies from Germany, 1 from Australia, so they're coming here for a reason, and I guess we've been noticed.
Thank you both. Oh, sorry, Kim.
Can I add something
Yes,
to
please,
that?
please.
Another thing, too, is when we have things done in the city, whether it building, planting, whatever we have done, like in our parks, in where we're building, why can't we use our city's businesses to put that into action, to go to them and say, hey, we want to do some landscaping here, Cal's Market's here, there's other, cities that have the same type of thing. Drawing that out of our own businesses instead of going to bigger businesses, to get a better bid. We need to start drawing that from our city and not others.
And the chamber members would absolutely appreciate that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I just have to comment
Yeah.
on that, just because the city has so many rules and regulations that we have to operate under, and that's why we have an attorney sitting at our council meetings to be sure that we're operating that way. And part of that is that the bidding process, so that we just can't go out and hire someone depending on how much money it's going to be. We have to go through a process, And we can't give, unfortunately, we can't give preference. And so that's just a situation that we have to deal with and pass a different law to make it work differently, I guess, but.
Then, yeah, then maybe we should start looking at those to make things,
Yeah, but we don't have the, yeah.
Yeah,
We
we
don't
don't-
have the power
yeah.
to do it when it comes from the state.
right. But I mean, getting bids from people within our community.
Well, yeah, we have
You
to go
know.
through a process of advertising and then, you know, getting the bids in and then have to always select the lowest one unless there's a really good reason why we wouldn't. And just being a resident of the city isn't necessarily part of that criteria.
And maybe that's where the chamber can step
But
in as
that-
well as work close with you.
Right. And make sure that they all,
They know.
yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not always the best thing to do take the lowest bid, because sometimes those bids change over time. They go higher, which you could have brought somebody else in, sometimes a little bit higher, but then, come out the same. I'm so for giving it to here where we live and be proud of, our businesses that, did this. But I know it's a big business is business, but we can try.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you both. Appreciate the answers to the question.
Thanks.
Okay, we have one last question on the agenda, and then I'm going to throw in at the end and give you each a minute or two to tell us why you deserve the vote this election, okay? The last wrap-up question is, it's kind of a life experience question. It asks, what has been your greatest learning opportunity in your life so far? Could be formal education, could be community experience, could be something that you've done in professional life. But what's the one learning moment or opportunity that has kind of informed who you are and makes you who you are today? And we'll start with Janet.
A lifetime learning experience. Well, I like to say that born and raised in Savage on a dairy farm certainly it instilled in me a strong work ethic. And also it was embedded in me that willingness to help others was something that we grew up with. And I think I've carried that on through my whole life with my family, with my personal career, and then being an elected official in Savage, because this is what I've been doing in retirement. I just think that I have the time now and the knowledge and the interest and the skills to do this, and I like it because it's nonpartisan, and I like to, information is my big thing, and that's why I was in the library field, and so one of my challenges in this position has always been educating the citizenry about about what the mayor does, what the council does, and things about the history, and as far as why things are done the way they are and why the city has to do them that way. For instance, you hear about local government aid, and people talk about that all the time. Well, Savage doesn't get any, unlike many of our other cities. And I guess the big thing is that I've learned is that you can't compare cities because we all operate differently. Like they say, oh, well, your budget is this much. Well, and my budget is this much. But you have to look at how it operates, because it goes with local government aid. Do you have utility fees or don't you, or all of those kinds of things? So I think it started when I was a child, and I've just continued that on through my life.
Thank you. Kim, same question to you. What has been your greatest learning opportunity in life so far?
1, 2, 3. Just with my education, the way that I've been brought up with my family, with my parents, the way that I've brought my children up, learning from experiences, working in the insurance business with appeals in Medicare. That was a big learning experience. And now I'm seeing how all that had gotten into our future, into now the way Medicare is being, utilized and stuff a lot with the drug companies, that type of thing. And I kind of took a break from that for a while, and I was a general manager of a restaurant because I love meeting people. I love being by people. Just doing all the aspects with that. And people, I love people. And most people say, oh, you're Kim, you're right to the point. This is the way it is. And I'm like, no, that's not the way it is. I'm open. Let's talk about this. Just life experiences, raising children, losing children, and how that focused me to a different time in my life. And what I did with that and brought it out, I became a motivational speaker, not by, choice, but all of a sudden I'm out there in the public with school groups and fire and chief and police about my own experiences losing a child. And that has not woken me up, but I see the need for that type of things in life. You need to be, grieving, but you also need to be out there. You need to be educating, finding the people that are going to help you and come to you. And that's been an awesome type thing for me. And then just going to schools and the cities and stuff around and getting more into government, asking for things. It was like, that's what I want to do.
Very good, thank you.
And learning a lot from Janet also. Watching her, talking to her.
Very good. So last question, and I'll ask each of you to be relatively brief, but we'll start with Kim, the challenger. In the last analysis, on election day, you are asking the voters to vote for you and not for the other person, okay? So I'd like you each to explain to the voters, starting with Kim, why should they vote for you and not your opponent? Kim, you first.
Thanks. I'm a type of person that doesn't want people to go, oh, we'll just do it this way, or let them do it that way. Come to us. The city is here. The council is here for a reason. They're taking what our citizens say and bringing it to heart, talking it over. City council, that's who's making your decisions. If you don't like those decisions, you can say something. You don't have to be quiet. We have city meetings that you can go to and express your feelings. I've been coming to city meetings now for over a year or so, every one of them. And sitting here, and when we have public meetings, nobody's here. And they all look at me. Well, I know Kim is here. But that's how we get our citizens to listen to what they want in Savage, and hopefully we can fill that need and give that to them. But it works both ways. If you see something out there, say something. How is anybody to know if nobody says anything about it? I have so many citizens coming up to me talking about, well, this is going on in Savage. Did you know that? I've been watching this person and that. And it's like, we don't know if our citizens don't come to us and say, hey, this is going on. You need to tell the right people. We can get out there and do something about it. The same thing with our schools also, with kids in school. You see something there, say something. You know, our police and our fire are as good as how we are and how we expect them to be. And we need to answer the calls of the people, and the people need to bring those to us.
Okay, thank you, Kim. And Janet, same question. At the end of the day, it's all about getting the votes. Why should the voters reelect you as mayor?
Okay. Well, I feel that I'm a proven leader because I can stand on my record in the number of years that I have been in this position. I know people get concerned when they look at their tax bill, but they need to focus only on the Savage part because that's the only part that the city council and the city is responsible for. And our main focus is 50% of that budget goes to our fire and police department. The other half of it goes to the sewer, water, public works, plowing your streets, and running the parks. And so I think that Savage has a reputation of being well-run and certainly well-planned, and when we're respected. And during my tenure, I think I've fostered fiscal responsibility, planned orderly development, a safe place to live, work, and play. And I just plan to continue to use my common sense that I've used in the past and would thank everyone for their vote. And I also wanted to say I wanted to thank the Chamber for hosting this, for you, Mr. Hutchinson, for moderating it, and for Kim agreeing to be here. So thank you.
Very good, and thank you both for being here today. I'm sure the voters have learned more about both of you, and we look forward to the election in November. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
So that wasn't
Janet,
bad.
no.